Yeah, got it.
Don't divine.
Oh, this is a good one.
Salesman's pressure.
Got it.
Oh, I remember this.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the Kurt Jones Autoplex. I am Kurt Jones. I reckon you're interested in the vehicle. Let's pray. Lord Jesus, thank you for bringing these customers to Kurt Jones, where the Lord lifts you up and Kurt lowers the prices. Allow them to haggle and negotiate, make sure they get a fair price, but also see that the dealership makes a healthy profit. Thank you, Jesus.
Amen.
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 Amen. Yeah.
All right. I'm Jeff. This is my wife, Abby. We're looking for a four-door, like a sedan, maybe. We don't really know, but we know we're not ready to buy it.
Okay. Dear Jesus,
Again?
please help Jeffrey and Abigail find a four-door sedan with power windows,
We just
a
looking.
sunroof,
We don't need
and a
that.
60 CD changer that comes standard in the Buick LaMonte.
Whoa. Limited edition?
Yeah. Jesus wants you to get in that car. Sit in that car. Follow me to the promised land. Woo! Reminds me of the book of Psalms. How many are your works, O Lord? In wisdom you made the Buick LaMonte.
I'm sorry. It says Buick in the Bible?
Let me tell you something. God made the Buick and the devil made the import.
I like the interior.
Oh, yes. Feel the leather. Do you feel it?
Well,
Can you feel the lumbar support lifting up your spirits? Do you feel it?
Well,
Can you feel the seat warmers warming your soul? Can you feel it? Do you feel it?
Yes, I feel it.
Now raise your hands through the optional sunroof and give it up to the Lord.
Oh, praise Jesus.
Hey, we're Jewish.
I remember I was tempted once in the back seat of a LaMonte.
Testify, sister.
Oh, the radio was playing Bell Biv DeVoe. The temptation was all around me.
The devil and poison was all around her.
But Jesus gave me the will to not fornicate with Chris Priest.
Hallelujah.
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 Yes, Abigail, you have given so much to the Lord, and now you shall receive. You shall receive his mercy. You shall receive his glory. You shall receive a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty.
Mr. Jones, we're just looking. Whoa, no. We don't even know what the price is.
Let me talk to my financing manager.
Okay.
Dear Jesus, are there any financing options that will allow Jeffrey and Abigail to purchase this vehicle? Well, I'm getting a message. I'm getting a message from the Lord. I am getting a message from the Lord. I am getting a message from the Lord. Oh, I hear you, Lord. I hear you, Lord, and clear. Yes, he's telling me we have 1.9% financing for 24 months. Yes, praise God. Yes.
What is this?
She's speaking in tongues. Praise Jesus. Saved. Your money has been saved. Yes, saved. Yes, indeed. Yes, saved. Your money has been saved. Jesus loves you. Yes, indeed. Jesus loves you. Yes, indeed. Yes, we sold another LaMonte.
No, we didn't.
Well, I shall throw in 3 floor mats. Now, GPS navigation system. Well, free tank of gas and spinning rims.
Praise Jesus.
Yeah!
Anyway, I thought that one was hilarious. So good morning.
Morning.
Okay. One sec here.
So, George, I want you to know you've got the white shoes. You just need the powder blue suit.
So in honor of George's appearance, I got the George video. Here we go.
George Sandler, Stoville, Toyota. I'm gonna give away a secret, everybody. I'm gonna let the cat in the bag. I'm gonna show you my ace out of my sleeve. There it is. Are you ready for this? My special gentlemen are in the way west, in the wild west. My man Jeff, the AutoHub show people. These gentlemen are all about the customer experience. They're all about mentors. They're one of my mentors, people, gentlemen, Ian, Jeff. You're truly one of my mentors. You're mentors to me and hundreds of people across the car business, from the East Coast, the West Coast, the North Pole, the South Pole. You show all the way from Greece. Gentlemen, you're looking for the best of the best in the car business. You're looking for the best show in the business. The AutoHub show. The man Ian, the man Jeff. One man, one place. George Sandler, Stoville, Toyota.
Thanks, George. And we got
Right on, boys.
we got a couple of books. So maybe Jeff can talk about these since he picked them.
Well, figuring today the topic is old dogs versus young guns, and what a great time, but to come up with some very interesting old books, which is the best ever book of car salesman jokes, which any of us in the business would quite find very funny, because of course it's always fun to poke fun at ourselves. And how to sell anything to anybody from Joe Girard. Well, there couldn't be anything more old school than that. And of course, my favorite is Crazy Stuff Car Dealers Do by Max Zenan, who's been on here before. The author of The Perfect Dealership. Some very good stuff there to read. And so we have here our disclaimer, because of course we just ran a video which isn't entirely politically correct. So the things that come on here, of course, we just make sure that aren't necessarily our views. It's purely for entertainment. And the views of our guests are their views and not necessarily our views. Although we're happy to say whatever Marco likes and whatever George likes, whatever Brandon likes, we probably do, but not officially. And our show today is the Old Dogs versus Young Gun show. And so we have with us two young guns and one old dog as a guest, but he's not really that old. And then myself is a really old dog, and Ian, who's somewhere in between. So without further ado, I'll introduce our guests and thank everybody for joining us, by the way. The youngest one here is Brandon Smith, new father, a sales manager from Steel Chev GM in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you there, Jeff. So yes, I am a new father again. My wife just gave birth to another daughter. Her name's Everly, and she is a sleep terrorist. So that is excellent. She's a lot of fun though. It's nice to be back in the store. I work at Steel, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Cadillac in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, as you said. We're the largest GM dealer in Eastern Canada. So we are selling a lot of vehicles, which is a really great place to be. So we're always busy, always something on the go. And I'm one of 4 sales managers here. I kind of specialize in the financing side, as that's my background. And just love the car business. I'm really passionate about it, and I love immersing myself in it as much as I can. So really happy to be here today.
Great, thank you for joining us. It's very funny, us out here on the West Coast. Eastern Canada starts at the Manitoba-Ontario border. So, and speaking of the Ontario-Manitoba border, another young gun is Marco Matanudo from Mercedes-Benz Canada, hopefully in Maple, Ontario. And thanks for joining us, Marco. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, Marco, morning.
Good morning, George. I would scream your name right now, but there's people around, so I can't. But
No problem.
So yeah, I've been in the industry since I was since right out of high school, and yeah, I've been working my way up the ranks, then back down the ranks, and everywhere in between. So yeah.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you joining us. Marco joined us a little while before. And I guess in the Mercedes world, you can't really yell out the Marco Martinudo, Mercedes-Benz. Although I must admit, having spent some time in the luxury world, it ain't as stuffy as all people believe. So, and finally, last but certainly not least, is our friend coming to us today from Stouffville, Ontario, is George Saraglu. Thank you, George. I don't think you have to tell anybody much, but say hello, introduce yourself, please.
Morning, gentlemen. How you doing? It's nice to be back on the show.
There's a lady
got some
present.
new faces. Brandon, welcome aboard, man, and congratulations on your newborn. That's fantastic. That's exciting. I want to say a special thank you to Marco. Gentlemen, you guys don't know this, but Marco actually sent me one of his close personal friends, sold him a 4Runner. So because of the fact you guys kind of brought us together on this show, Marco was kind enough to refer me one of his best friends. And Marco, thank you very much for that. That's awesome.
Do we get a bird
Thank
dog?
you, George.
Yeah, my love, right here. My forever love. So yeah, it's great to be back on the show. I think I hear nothing but good things from many people about what you guys are doing, and keep up the good work. And I'm happy to be on again.
Fantastic.
Well, we really appreciate you joining us, and thank you for joining us. Thanks for the support. We love the video. We probably overplayed it, but thank you again. Thanks everybody for joining us and our viewers. And I would be remiss to not share the fact today is International Women's Day. So
nice.
We have to be, we can't be old dogs, and we shouldn't be, but we've got to recognize that. And of course, the whole point today is old dogs versus young guns. The business, the big conversation in the business, especially in the last year, is how the business has changed. And people like myself and George, who's been around a little bit longer, John Latka, of course, who's probably not been around as long as me because he's way younger. We remember the old days, and we always talk about, well, it's relationships, and it is. But I'm going to start with a question for George. You've been in the car business since the 90s, way back. In fact, Brandon probably wasn't even born then. But what is just kidding. What is the biggest change you've seen to today? And, in other words, can old dogs learn new tricks?
Well, without question, the biggest change from then until now has been obviously the computer / social media / being to connect with thousands of people with a click of a button. And yes, we can learn new tricks. As a matter of fact, people who know how to utilize these tools actually are excelling. And that's where I was so happy to take on all these new tools and combine the old with the new. And it's just becoming more powerful and powerful. It's incredible what I see every day and how it's integrated into our business. I'm so happy to say it's working out great for me. And young guns like Brandon, like this comes second nature to you guys. This is for you guys. This is nothing, but being able to integrate the old with the new, it's really working out awesome.
Fantastic. And I got a question for Marco and Brandon. Jeff and I came from a time when the car business was less cooperative than today. How have you been affected by customers who have had prior bad experiences from those times? So go ahead, Marco.
So you cut out there for a second. What's the last part of the question?
How obviously customers had bad experiences in the past. How have you adjusted to how the customers were affected by those bad experiences? How have you helped them get past those, I guess is the general gist of it.
Well, it's kind of funny because if you look at the history of like clients have adapted a lot faster than we have, in the sense that I remember when I started in the industry, people were didn't want to give you their phone number because they were afraid that you would hound them until they died, and then hound their families and kids after that. So it's and then we went from that to salespeople not really following up as much, and clients now giving you their phone number so that you may call them, and they're more than willing to do so. Actually, they're more likely to give you their phone number than their email, because they're starting to realize that there's a lot of junk that they receive on a daily basis, and they're asking you to follow up with them via text rather than calling them. That's another big thing. So they're if salespeople are not willing to change, the market will make sure that they do change, right? So yeah, I think that's part of the thing. And then the other thing, the better experience and that they had past the phone call aspect. I mean, it's people still need cars, so they come in, and the better experience is not like a bad omen or something to that they're expecting. But it's just that they're a bit more prepared, and kind of spot, I guess we would say, is a bad path that they're going into, right? So I don't know if I explained myself well enough in that one, but yeah.
Fantastic. Brandon, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that I think the biggest way that this presents itself is that the way that customers come in and they have this huge sense of distrust initially, and I think it represents a real tremendous opportunity for dealerships and and salespeople to really develop a relationship with this customer. And I think these customers are ones that can become really, really loyal very, very quickly. A lot of people who've had these terrible experiences in the past, they come in and they're ready to have a bad experience again. They're expecting to have a bad experience, and that their defenses are really high. So if you can take the time to really have a connection with this customer, give them a good experience, earn their trust, and provide superior customer service, you're probably going to have someone who's going to be tremendously loyal, because they went from having a very bad experience to having what should hopefully be a very good experience. And anytime you kind of have that contrast, those customers are going to be far more loyal than someone who's gone around and shopped a couple different places and had good experiences everywhere they've been. But that bad experience in the past really, really is an opportunity to show that your store or you as a salesperson are different. And if you can do that and really earn their trust, I think you'll have a very long time customer. So a lot of opportunity comes with those types of customers.
Well, thank you. It's very funny, Marco, how you mentioned about the phone calls, and Ian and I were just talking about that before everybody joined in this morning about people who still believe in hounding somebody with phone calls, and even trainers that train people, just bug them, just bug them, just bug them, just bug them, just bug them. And my firm belief, it never worked before. And they only bought because you beat them, they finally just to submission, and you probably chased away more. But so seeing the fact that we're talking about this stuff, what are the biggest hurdles that you're experiencing with customers today? Probably due to the past, and I'm going to hit Brandon with that.
I mean, I think one of the biggest hurdles we have now is getting customers to be honest with us. I see a lot of times where customers will get a lot of bad advice from friends or family or the internet, and come in with, again, this really high sense of distrust, and they'll be really guarded with their information. They'll flat out lie about certain things. They'll say they don't have a trade when they do. Just these different things that make it harder to give them a good experience and harder to work with them. Those are real hurdles. And I think one of the biggest things that salespeople should do now to help overcome these things is just really extend that first meet and greet process. Really take the time to develop a relationship with your customer. If a customer comes in and says, "Listen, I'm here, I just want to drive that car," just pump the brakes a little bit. Have a conversation with them first, as much as you can, as much as they'll let you. And I think that'll be really beneficial. But a lot of people don't take the time to have these conversations or to overcome these, to reference like, shields up. People come in with the shields up just to get them to lower their guard. That's a big hurdle I find a lot of times. And then same with Marco now, people will give you their phone number, no problem, because they don't answer the phone anyways. But no one will really give you your email right off the hop. So that's another hurdle as well.
You know, I have to say that I've just realized something. I haven't written it down, but I think almost every show that we have had, there's been some reference to Star Wars, Shields Up, or Star Trek, Shields Up. So George, putting that question to you, and I know you do most of your business by relationships, and many of your people are repeat and referral, but what's the biggest hurdle that you've got today?
I'd have to say not too much has changed in regards to customers and their trades. For example, Brandon mentioned that, you know, everybody wants to maximize their trade. The benefit I have is you're talking about decades of relationships. So, you know, I proudly say, you know, I'm on to my fourth generation of customers where I've sold great grandparents, grandparents, parents, and children. So that being said, I still love meeting new people. But you're going to always have, you know, money sensitive. And right now with the economy the way it is, I think the biggest hurdle is there's a lot of money sensitive people, which I completely understand and I respect. And similar to what you said, Jeff, you don't want to beat them over the head, regardless if they're a referral or not. You know, pounding the way we were taught, pound them till they die, or, you know, buy or die. You know, that is something that you just cannot do ever, but let alone now. And everybody is so sensitive when it comes to money right now. I see this now more than ever. And I completely, like I said, I completely understand. I had a friend of mine here this morning. He brought in his car for service. I met him here. He had a couple restaurants and now those went belly up. So here he is telling me about, you know, this is a guy who used to buy, you know, him and his family. I'd sell his family 3, 4, 5 cars a year. And now everything's come to a screeching halt. So it's definitely a challenging time in our business. Um, like I said, my base of customers is always coming and going, and whether it's in service or sales, to me, it's always coming, it's always flowing. For some of the younger guys, I see it. It's a challenge for them, no question.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, Toyota's always been, they've always made bulletproof cars. Their business has always been bulletproof. I spent time in the Toyota world and I was amazed at just how, I don't want to say easy because I don't want to bring down anything of what you do, because what you do is, it isn't easy and you do it well. But even Toyota is experiencing difficulty these days in the change of business.
Yep. You know, another thing is, and I don't know if the other guys are experiencing in their brand, but our actual supply, you know, is actually lower than it's ever been. I'm sure everybody, I see Brandon shaking his head. I don't know about Marco and the rest of the guys, but you know, I'm selling a car. Like this morning, I sold a RAV4 Prime that's not coming for a year. I sold, selling Tundras, Siennas, Tacomas that are 2, 3, 4, 5 months waiting, 6 months waiting. That is also another challenge when I have to look at the customer and say, yeah, you know, today is March, but you're not picking it up till August, September. So, by then it could be 21, it could be 22. That's another area where we're struggling a little bit, is the amount of inventory. It's very challenging.
Yeah, well,
That's a
you
really
know,
good
it
point,
reminds me
George.
of, sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
Honestly, that's a really good point. When I started at our store here, we had 331 trucks on our lot my first day here. And I think since about probably August, I don't think we've gotten above 50. So
Yep.
inventory has been a consistent issue, and you know, projecting forward, it's not getting any better.
That's
So
correct. It's not. And I was talking with the owner of the dealership, and that's a big concern. He's like, you know, try and getting the inventory from Toyota when it's super, super tight. That's a big challenge for 2021 on the new car side.
I read an article today in Automotive News. I don't know if anybody, I don't know how many people remember, because it's borderline old dog, but 2011, when the tsunami hit Japan after the earthquake, and this giant semiconductor plant got wiped out, and it
Yep.
provided the world with the vast majority of their semiconductors. And we're in the middle of a problem with chips right now. And there was an earthquake in Japan in February, but nobody heard about it. And they didn't make their changes. But I have a question for you, George, from our friend Scott Wayne, which is, it says, if you're considered an old dog, what would you say to a young gun about the opportunity to build a client base like you've been able to do through multiple generations, rather than chasing the dollar and jumping around store to store?
Yeah, you definitely. I'm a firm believer if you're gonna take this on as in a career, and I love seeing young guys come into this business and making a career of it. I'm the first one to welcome them aboard, work with them, help them, and make them understand that it takes time. And a lot of these younger guys, time is difficult for them because they're not used to that being patient. They want everything and they want it now. Whereas, when we got back into the business way back, we understood that, yeah, this is going to take 5, 10, 15, a lifetime. That was just understood. And the newer generation, they need to be a little bit more patient, and they need to kind of slow it down a little bit, as hard as it is for them. A few years ago, I had to take a course on how to communicate with millennials. Like, it was that much of a disconnect. And I had to take an online course to learn, because when I thought I was getting through to millennials, I was a manager for 21 years, managing the biggest dealerships in the country. What I thought I was getting through to somebody, to the young guns, I wasn't. And it became frustrating until I finally said, you know what, I need to learn how to better communicate with the younger guys. And it made a world of a difference.
Are we really that difficult to talk to?
It's one thing to talk, but it's one thing when you're giving direction. Being in a managerial role, and you got to give direction. When I thought I was getting through, yeah, it wasn't happening, and I thought, am I saying something wrong? Am I doing something wrong here? And I realized, yeah, maybe I was doing something wrong, and I just had to learn how to communicate better with them. So it was a definite challenge. But as anybody young in the business, I want to welcome any youth into the business. I love seeing youth come into the business. But my number one thing is just please be patient. It's not going to happen in a month, in 6 months, a year, 3 years. Give yourself some time and commit yourself to the business, because it's been a phenomenal business. The business is a great business. It's an incredible industry. It's so vast, and just give it some time.
So in other words, George, you're telling us you took a course so you could become woke.
That's right.
And I just got poor Marco's been sitting there. You haven't asked the question, but before we hit Marco on this same question, comment from Jay here is patience is a virtue in this business. It's so true. And young guys need to recognize that the automotive business is a career. And he said, well said, George, from seasoned dog Jay Barron. Marco,
thanks, Jay.
Hello.
What is the biggest hurdle you're experiencing with customers today?
Biggest hurdle I'm experiencing with customers is the amount of information they walk in with. They do a lot of research online. They do a lot of detailed research about certain things, and that's not a bad thing because it makes my job easier. But at the same time, when they over-research something and they come in with the wrong information, it's a bit challenging to break down that house and rebuild it from the ground up, because they come in with with their building price, they go online, they look at all the info, and they miss that, maybe a package that they could have gone without getting a sport package or something else is not information that's online. So we have to go through it. Also, hand in hand with the shortage of cars, a lot of we've seen a shortage of car, but even worse is the fact that they're taking bits and pieces of cars out of them. Like, for example, massage seats, the rear suspension have been a challenge for us. So a lot of the cars that are going to be coming in probably won't have either one of those things in the higher category, bigger cars like GLSs and GLEs. So you go online, you build your dream car, and all of a sudden I have to kind of break that dream and tell you, this is not available, this is going to come in a year, yada yada yada. The other biggest challenge is the fact that manufacturer websites, and this is a frustration that I've had with every single manufacturer, are not accurate. You build and price this car. Nobody reads the 3-paragraph disclosure at the bottom that tells you that this car does what you built doesn't really exist. Like it's a dream car. And then when they come in, I have to tell them that the car that they've built is actually, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 more than what they were expecting, because they were looking at a zero money down, but they didn't realize that the build and price doesn't include taxes, doesn't factors in the freight and PDI up front and all those things. So that's a challenge I've had with every single company I've ever worked for. And I just want to add one thing about George's thing, that he had to take the course to talk to millennials. When I was a manager, I had to have a mentor walk me through how to talk to older people, because I could not really relate to them. When you have and this is out of pure coincidence, but when you have a 40-year-old Greek guy, which I did, who came straight from the motherland, and who's got 4 kids, and and I'm talking to him like as aggressively or as passionate as I was with a millennial, he would take it the wrong way. And my GM at the time pulled me aside and he said, you can't talk to this guy this way. You got to go around the long way, because he doesn't understand this direct approach, and you got to kind of give him the lay of the land before you explain to him what's going on. So, and keep in mind your age versus his, right? So, yeah.
There was actually, ironically, a question from the audience. Patients, sales managers who are young, new sales rep answers to allow for growth curve, or they expect great results in short amount of time. I don't know much about new car sales, so please excuse my lack of knowledge. So how would you correct that? How would you recommend correcting that patience? I mean, you're a young person. Obviously, you just moved from one brand to another. Do you feel that's a patience issue? And how would you correct for that if you were a manager?
You know what, like the disconnect that I think the 2 generations have is the fact that the old dogs are preaching, you got to be patient, you got to take your time, but you're preaching this to somebody whose entire generation has been able to make themselves famous with a cell phone, and almost instantly. So some people are just blow up overnight. They put out a video, they don't even think about it too much. Like, for example, the guy that skateboarded with the Fleetwood Mac song in the background, he's gone to be he's wealthy now, bought himself a house, bought his family houses, and like he's been able to maximize that the original video and make himself famous, and that practically happened overnight. So it's hard for somebody to go and say, you need to slow down, you need to do this. Well, as you're talking to me, I've ordered something on Amazon Prime that's going to get home before I do. And we're in a world that moves so fast that the preaching patient is not, patient. Maybe we should switch the focus. Instead of patient, you should give younger salespeople like targets and pathways. So by this point, you should have this many people, or you should be able to sell this many cars, and by this point you should be able to sell this many more cars, and so forth. And if you're struggling with certain things, just come talk to us, and we'll walk you through how to do it. But to turn around to a guy that's had everything instantaneously his whole life and tell them, well, you need to slow down now and have patience, that he's not gonna listen to you, because patience and slowing down are not part of what we've been taught since the coming of the internet, right? So,
any thoughts on that, Brandon?
Oh, no, I agree with Marco entirely. When I was a new sales manager, I had a very, very green, very, very young sales team at Fredericton Mitsubishi, and I think that was a huge benefit for me. I didn't have to I didn't have to prove myself as a sales manager. I didn't have to do any of the justification for what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. We basically kind of made plans and we put it into motion, and we got big results very, very quickly at Mitsubishi there. We were able to grow our market share for a very small brand in a relatively small city very quickly. I think in my first year, I think we grew our market share by like 6%. In the city, which was fantastic, and I think the only reason we did that is that we were young, we were hungry, we just wanted it, and we wanted it now, and we just kept pushing. So I think that was something that the young guys, they don't have the patience. They want they do want it now, and they'll work hard to get it. They'll get it now. So I don't think you need to preach patience or ask someone to slow down. Just let their enthusiasm and let their desire to succeed motivate them, push them, point them in the right direction, let them accomplish what they can accomplish.
Great thoughts.
We
Yeah,
have
can I
a
jump in?
question here. Sorry.
So no, I was just going to say, as far as the patients go, it's for me, when I originally asked George that question, it wasn't the patience in having them just slow down and not utilize the tools that are available to get out there and crush it and to grow their client base, but the patience to actually stay in one spot and not to go to this store, to that store, to this store, to this store, because we don't even ever have the ability to build an actual client base because we've left 3 of them behind in the last 3 years.
Can I let me jump into that one, because so the culture is everything when it comes to that. What I mean by that is a young person will not make a move based on the money if you create the right culture. What do I mean by that is I built a sales team at my old Nissan store, and they're all still there. And these are very highly skilled individuals who have, if they knew what they could make somewhere else, doing what they're doing there, I don't know if they would still leave. Probably some of them do know what they could make somewhere else, but I did too good of a job putting them together to the point where if I ever needed one of them to come and join me at another dealership, they probably wouldn't, because they get along with each other really, really well. They like the store that they're working for, and the store is actively doing things that to keep them together, like go-kart nights when things were open, or like go out for dinner, small tokens of appreciation where they're going to think about it twice before they leave. So a millennial or a younger person will leave your organization for a few different reasons. First and foremost, they're not getting the support that they need. So basically, if they keep hitting the same unmovable object, eventually they're going to leave. They're going to get fed up and leave. And then number two, it's the wrong culture. So if they don't feel welcome, if they don't feel like they're being heard and so forth, or if they feel like things are moving slower for no reason than they should, they're going to leave. So part of the reason why I've left in the past years different operations, because I got to a point where I was giving up my personal life for the job, and that's just that was a big no-no for me. I did it for a long time to prove that I could do it consistently, but ultimately, when it came down to it, I said, okay, well, my health is starting to suffer now, because you guys can't take a simple step of hiring an extra lot attendant or whatever else. So see you later, right?
Marco, that's awesome. That's
Well
awesome.
said.
You know,
Well said.
that health, the work-life balance, the older I get, I'll tell you, I share the exact same feeling, is that, it's one thing I have realized now more than ever is the health, the work-life balance, that health. In the car business, typically guys who've been in the car business a long time, you have certain stereotypes. We're, not healthy. We don't eat right. We don't take care of ourselves. You got smoker's corner. You got all these things about typical stereotypes. And
Red
I've
Bull.
actually, hey, yeah, Red Bull, right? Ian, thanks.
He's battling some
But
sleep deprivation though.
Yeah. So now
Sleep again?
take all that George just said and put it into perspective to somebody who spends 2-3 hours a day on Instagram, TikTok, and everything else, and sees the life of the mega rich or the life of people of their own age and what they're doing, and get to understand what they think, where they want to go, and what your operation is doing for them. So basically, these people, ultimately, if you dig down and you talk to the people that have left their operation, and you find commonalities on why they're leaving, you might have one of the answers there. But ideally is, I sit on Instagram, look at these people that are making themselves famous, they're rich, they're taking very simple steps, and then go back to your job where you're you don't have somebody to drive to licensing, or you don't have somebody doing your licensing or your deliveries, or your cars are messes, and and everything else, and eventually this all adds up and makes a decision for them. But they yeah, they expect an easier life, and whenever there are simple issues that can be corrected fairly easy, and we're stuck in our old ways, that's when they really start looking around, right?
Well, that's a big problem in the car business. You know, looking on LinkedIn, which how we've all made connections, we celebrate people working, blowing their lives. You know, way to go, team. We crushed it at month end. We worked till midnight and the guys were in at 6 in the morning and everything else. And yay, look at what we did. And that's, I have to hand it to you, Marco, because I came to that realization a lot later in the business than you did. So congratulations. I want to bring up a question that came a while back, and I don't want Denise to feel that we ignored her. Actually, but this is a question from Brandon or Marco. And it says, sorry?
Before you get into that, I just want to actually echo, reinforce a point that Marco made. I joined the business here sometime in 2014, and I've been at 4 stores. I worked for 4 stores in that time, and never once have I ever left for more money, but I've always left for more opportunity. That's what I've always looked for. Actually, even my most recent one, it was very, very difficult to leave Fresh Mitsubishi. I love that store. But the only reason I left is I wanted to be close to the family so that my wife and I could have a second child like we did now, and to find that work-life balance and to have support and be surrounded by people that support you. So yeah, it's not always about the money, and sometimes the best thing you can do for someone, if you're a new manager or an old manager, is to really just give the person that person permission to leave and let them do well somewhere else. I know Dave O'Leary, who was my old dealer principal, he and I still talk, and he gave me full blessings to leave, and he knew why I was leaving, so there was no hard feelings. And just because someone bounces around does not mean it's for more money. I started at a Kia store. I left to become a finance manager. I left that store to become a finance manager at a different store, but it was a better opportunity with a more I would say progressive group, and then I became a sales manager there. And the only reason I left that store was because I just wanted a better work-life balance as well. So yeah, I think for the younger people, everyone assumes that people hop around looking for more money or looking for a title, but if you really drill down on it, it's almost never the case. So
thank you.
At least in my experience.
We train salespeople to say people don't buy cars for money. They buy cars for the experience, and people don't leave, especially younger people. Older people, you know what, maybe, maybe not. But you don't ask people, and when you get down to it and you talk to them, you don't say, so why'd you leave? They said, because I could make another $300 a month, man. It's usually because the owner came down and yelled at me one day. And that's another excuse. But I really want to address Denise's question because it's going to get forgotten. For you, Brandon and Marco, working with old dogs, what has been your hurdles and change, and how you were viewed by them?
IT. No. Doing all the IT work, setting up their cell phone. No, just kidding. Even though that is a part of our job. Really, it's the mentality of probably skating the floor and stealing clients and things like that. If somebody steal my clients, man, all the power to you. Take them. Like, that means that I didn't do a good enough job to keep them as my own clients. So that's proof. I'm gonna do a better job next time. The stories are hilarious. Like, I mean, the older the sales rep, the better the stories are, from throwing keys of trade-ins on the roof of the building to nights
That's me.
after work after hours, and all sorts of crazy stories. But I mean, ultimately, like, my skills have been refined in selling by listening to the old dogs. I would sit by the desk of the older sales reps that were successful, listening to what they were saying, and then take bits and pieces and put them as part of my script when I was talking to clients, and take it from there. But I think I've had more positive come out of listening to older guys than negative, and the trade-off was doing some IT work on the side. So,
Brandon?
I think for me, the biggest hurdle I've had, dealing with some of the old dogs in the industry is this idea that I have to prove myself or prove my abilities before I kind of earn their trust or respect. That was something I've kind of tackled that a few times. It always presents itself in a little bit of a different way, but that is something I've noticed being a younger, and I have a bit of a baby face. Might not look it sometimes, but I'm actually 35 now. Despite people telling me sometimes I look 25 still. So I think that, this idea that sometimes you need to prove yourself before people will trust or respect your knowledge or your experience or your ideas. That's been a hurdle I've seen where sometimes, I've seen someone, an older guy, will suggest an idea and it'll be adopted or picked up or agreed to right away. And I've seen younger guys, myself, or other guys who are young, suggest ideas, and they're challenged, and they need to defend them immediately. So I think that's the one thing. And it's gotten a lot better the last, I would say, probably 2 years overall. I think there's been this big shift that some of the younger generation have ideas that can be real beneficial. And I've seen this, and even with COVID right now, this big push to online, everything online. Suddenly we have people coming to you asking what your ideas for doing stuff online, and so I think that there's a shift there, but that's been a hurdle I've seen for sure.
Thank you.
I find it fascinating as we sit here and other experiences with the millennials and such, as well as how the millennials came in as probably the most observed generation in history. And we weren't sure what was going to happen. And I remember I was with a GM store at one point, and they were talking about how this group was coming up and how they were going to have the most disposable and all this other stuff. But what has been most interesting to me is how the millennials have raised the old dogs' expectations of what they should expect from their work life. We heard George talk about making his work-life balance such that he could, have a better life and a healthier life. And some of us just plowed through on some of this stuff, and that's just what the expectation was. The owner at the top whipping a whip, and then this other generation came along and said, "Guess what, guys? There's a better way to do this," and they've affected the generation above them, and I think for the better. So I thank all the young guns that come out and have had a positive effect on the work life and the expectation and working more efficiently rather than just pouring in all your energy until you were burnt out and kicked to the curb. So anyway, I think the millennials have done wonders for our work environment.
I have a question based on that. What's your opinion as a young gun, now to be an older person, of the next generation, and how they're going to impact differently than millennials did?
No pressure, gentlemen. No pressure. Careful what you say.
Those damn kids.
I mean, it's hard to say because it's I think, what, like, I'll make an example. When talking about the Nissan team that I was working with, they're not going to work for your money, they're going to work for you. So I think those were much younger, like they're I don't know, I don't remember which generation is, I'm lost, X, Y, Z, whatever, after the millennials, but that generation's going to work for you, not so much for your money. And these are all guys and girls that have been raised to come up with alternate sources of income. So basically, you're not going to be their only source of income. I see the sales guys that, again, I keep bringing them up because they're the youngest sales team I've ever worked with. They're still all in their 20s. They need guidance. I got off the phone with one of them the other day, And I walked into Best Buy, I bought myself a laptop one day, and this kid that I was dealing with, who was just finished high school, was in college, was selling me an extended warranty, and he did it really well. I said no to him right off the bat, and then he's like, "Well, let me tell you why you should buy this warranty." And he went into the pitch, and he did a great job. And I said, "What are you doing here? Come and sell cars." I ended up hiring him. I would meet with him on my days off and train him and teach him and get him ready for the role. And then eventually he got his OMVIC and he started working with us. And he calls me the other day and he's like, "You know what you did to me that day at Best Buy completely changed my life, because I was going into marketing and you got me into the automotive industry. And I'm the only guys amongst my friend who has his own place, his own car, and is doing well for himself. All my friends are still living at home. They're still going to school, blah, blah, blah." And this is a kid that is now a sales guy. He's still going to school, and then he's got a side hustle as well. And then there is the guy that sits next to him who does Twitch at night. So he streams himself playing video games, and he makes a healthy income. And he's the top sales rep at that Nissan store. So
Wow.
yeah, so they're going to come in, and they're not going to expect for you to fill up their bank account and be their only source of income. They're gonna figure out a way to maximize their time. So they see, I have this many hours during the day. How do I make a passive income while I'm at my day job that provides me with my benefits, a free car, and everything else? So that's the generation that we're going up into next. The biggest mistake that the sales manager make, I think, in this industry, is everybody tosses words of like, we don't manage individual, we manage personalities, but nobody really goes into understanding that, in the sense of, if you understood if the first guy I've ever worked with understood my personality, I'd still be working for him. The Mazda store that I started at, if the guy understood that all he needed to do, and which I voiced to him, was to give me a Miata as a demo in the summer, that's all he had to do to keep me there, he would have understood that car, that convertible, meant a lot to me. I didn't care about the money. I wanted to drive a cool car. I was 20 years old. I wanted to drive a convertible, as silly as the Miata looks. That's all I cared about. And he ended up not giving it to me. And, I left a month after, and I walked across the street and I started a VW store. So it goes from there, right? But that's the next generation. It's not all about the money. You got to keep in mind that the personalities you're going to be managing are not only absolutely devoted to you, they're probably going to be doing something on the side. And yeah,
I think that there's a lot of other things too, and there's things like somebody having the ability to take a month off and potentially go to Thailand and really explore who they are, come back, and be very, very aware and be involved in some of the social causes that the dealership's involved in. So it's not just where the dealership writes a check to their normal friend that has a charity that does whatever. The younger generation really, if rescued pets are a big thing in their life, they want to be able to commit some time. They want to donate $5 for every car they sell to that charity. They really want to be involved, because this is kind of one of the first generations that have really owned that part of it. And so those are big dynamics as well. So if you're a dealership and you're an old dog in a position of some power, and you can actually say to the young millennial coming in, well, here's what we'll do. You pick your charity. We donate $5 from every car you sell to your charity. Every 4 years, you can take a month off at a time, and you start putting some of these things together for this, the next generation after millennial, and they really see an attractiveness to it, and it's important. It should have been important to us.
Yeah. It's a very good point you made there, Barry, because I came from a time when the dealer principal or the manager would say, well, wait a minute, you got time to donate to the rescue animals? You should have been on the phone calling people.
Right.
Well, they said, but by the way, I'm going home because I just got a boat.
Yeah. And it's on the part statement.
or charged against the used car inventory, yeah. Car by car by car.
Right.
Sorry, guys. I think we cut off our questions there, Ian.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask if Brandon had any thoughts there on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's similar to what Marco was saying. I think the you really just got to equip them for success, and I don't think we hire people to tell them exactly what to do. You kind of hire them and let them tell you what they need to succeed, right? So some of the coaching I've done with some younger guys has been completely removed from the car industry itself. Sometimes it's I've helped guys negotiate a mortgage or buy a house. I help some guys with investment stuff on how to set up things and how to manage personal finances. So sometimes that's the stuff that's distracting them and keeping them from being successful at work. And I know as a sales manager, I ask, what can I do to help you today? It doesn't just mean I don't need to make you help you make a phone call. It's whatever I can do, right? So I think these younger generation, they're confident, and they're pretty self-aware. They're very, very motivated, and they do have this I think there's a big desire to really prove themselves. I'm not sure why. That's just been something I've seen a lot from some of the younger guys that I've hired. There's this driving need to prove themselves and prove their worth. And I think you hire them and you point them in the right direction and you let them go. And I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot of the guys that I've hired that have this desire to prove themselves, and they're real hard workers, and they'll go. And it's less about telling them what they need to do and just helping them when they need the help. So
Fantastic. Thanks for that. I don't know if George had any thoughts.
I got a lot of thoughts. I mean, I remember being, the teenager in the business and getting beaten over the head a few times from a few people. There was no human resources. There was no rules. There was just fly off the seat of your pants and get the job done. And if you didn't work out, work harder and work more hours. And a lot's changed. But at the end of the day, I mean, it is in the individual. It doesn't matter how old or young they are. I guarantee you, Brandon is as a hustler, he's a go-getter, and Marco as well. That I have no question. And being young is great, and exploring is great, and mentorship is probably the most important thing as a young fellow. If you're lucky enough to find that right person, that right mentor, who actually genuinely cares and wants to give you a small tip of the day or something that's going to be everlasting. Or I'm sure we all have mentors, and we remember some of our mentors at any given age, whether it was a teacher, a family member, a co-worker, a boss, or something of that matter. So kudos to you, gentlemen, who take the time to sit down and take on that role, because at the end of the day, mentorship is very important, very important.
And then I think we had one last question, but we're kind of out of time. So maybe just some final thoughts from everybody. You want to start, Jeff?
Well, I think it was a great show, and guys, you give a great input. And the biggest thing that I take from you guys, Marco and Brandon, is this fact that you're committed to life as well as the business. And George created a not a countering viewpoint, but the fact is when he was younger, and I know when I was younger, the old thing was you got to work harder. And it seems now, well, not it seems, but now Brandon, Marco, it's called working smarter, even though this was a cliche we used. And it is a big deal. Life is a big deal. Any gentlemen, guests, comments? Brandon, George, Marco?
The word work-life balance, I never even heard that word before until a few years ago. I didn't know what it meant. So
didn't exist until a few years ago.
Exactly. Well, I didn't even think that those words would be something you can even talk about in this business. But it's no different. Well, we're all in it to succeed, but at the same time, to succeed, you got to look after your health too, right? And everything around you that's important. So yeah, it's nice. It's refreshing.
I think it's
You know
important
what,
to have that younger generation with you too, because they, from the first day of school, they've been sitting at tables, working collaboratively, working in teams, doing big projects together where we all sat in a line and weren't allowed to talk and weren't allowed to say anything. And you know, at a blink of a moment, if they have a question, they're on Google checking it out, and researching and seeing what some company in Spain is doing. And like it's completely different than the way we learned to grow up and to get information. And so to have that that incredible thirst of knowledge and ability on your team is a real win.
And I think, you know, hats off to you guys. It sounds like, you know, and Marco mentioned earlier, you know, the environment, the culture, you know, when you put your people first and they feel and know that you care about them, you're going to get more out of them, right?
Absolutely.
It's like the hockey analogy, that goal scorer who hasn't scored in 15 games and they're squeezing the stick too tight, right? If you're not supporting your people and they're not able to kind of, you know, share their thoughts and feelings, and you're not helping them, you know, negotiate that mortgage, or you're not, you know, pulling them out of Best Buy, like those are the folks who are squeezing the stick too tight, and you're not going to get the best of your people. So hats off to you guys for, you know, looking at your crews like that, because we need more of this in this industry.
No question.
You know what, George, you worked at Woodbridge Toyota, right?
That's correct.
Did you, so there was a guy because he worked at Woodbridge Toyota and I worked at Prima Mazda next door. And
Yeah.
there was a guy at Prima Mazda. I don't know if you've ever met him. His name was Akif.
Yep.
He's in his 60s, was in his 60s at the time, I believe. And this guy had the life that I dreamed of. This guy would come in, work 6 months out of the year in the summer months, work at Prima Mazda, sell 150 cars. And then in the wintertime, he would take off to his home in Ecuador on the beach. And if there is ever a life I aspire to have, that's the one. I'll as a millennial, I'll work my tail off for 6 months out of the year so that I can enjoy the other 6, no problem, right? So one day, hopefully, I'll get to live his life. But yeah, that guy was probably the guy that put the target where I want to end up. Hopefully, one day. I don't want to not work. I want to work. I just also want to enjoy my life, right?
Of course. You can join me in Greece, Marco. Don't worry. That's where I'm headed.
Done.
Well, with that, we'll end the show. We always try to end on the time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You know, our special thanks always go to Barry and John for being loyal there every week. And you know, one day we'll send you a present other than our wonderful personalities. So thank you, everybody. Ian, anything else to say?
No, great show. I really appreciate the different points of view. I've recently completed an MBA with a bunch of millennials in class and some from my generation. It was very interesting to see sort of the different team dynamics, and echoed sort of what Marco was saying, but that definitely cuts both ways. I felt, and I had 2 other people in the class where one of them was older than me and one was my generation. We felt that we weren't being respected in a lot of ways. And part of that was when we grew up, we were taught to respect our elders no matter what they said. So part of it was our upbringing. So I think that's interesting as well, but I appreciate the thoughts.
Great. With that, we'll end the show. Thank you all. Have a fabulous day.
Thanks, everybody.
And just remind all your friends to check us out on our podcasts and our website. Thank you again.
Awesome. Great seeing you, gentlemen. Have a great day.
Have a good one, everyone.
Take care.
Guys, just wanted to thank you all for attending. We know you're a busy day, and for all of you, you know, out here, it's easier for us on the West Coast because it's the start of our day. And where you are, it's the middle of your day. So thank you so much. And gosh, your input was terrific. And I learn everything every day, but I got to admire you. And Marco, I won't kid you. I wish I had that state of mind at your point that you do, because part of that also allows you to be happier and allows your employer to be more respectful of you. And, you know, I know that when the boss said to me, hey, buddy, look, you know, we're just going through a reno. If you could take your holidays, you know, later, I'd appreciate it. You know, it'd have been nice to have said, "Hey, boss, look, I love you, but I'm going. I'm sorry."
Yeah.
And your family respects you more too. So,
Yep.
thank you very much. We appreciate you spending your time. Anything else anybody needs to say, or Ian? And
Yeah, I'm still in shock on the old dog here. This is ridiculous.
well, George, I have to be honest with you. If you get rid of the goatee,
Yes.
you're like Justin, man. You get rid of the goatee, you look 35.
You gotta
That's
get the hair going, man.
Don't worry. Spring's right around the corner.
The only reason that I have this little scruff here is just to keep me from looking baby face and to cut back on the amount of skin that shows in my head.